There are two types of WordPress developers, and we're going to go over that today. We're going to figure out which group you're in and what delineates the line between the groups. So I've got a really cool set of tons of topics to talk about. I'm really pumped up to be starting out this new year with you guys, and I'm really looking forward to really connecting with you guys in a new and more powerful way than ever before this year. So much stuff to talk about. And I'm going to kick it off today with two things. I'm going to start out with just a quick productivity tip, something that I kind of, I was doing a lot of reading over the holidays, and this really, I was reflecting, what am I looking at versus, what am I doing? What worked last year? What are we going to do this year? So I want to start out this with a quick productivity tip. Then we're going to jump into how can we double your income this year by making one shift to the way that you think about your business and yourself and the work that you do. And so we're going to dive into that. So here's the productivity tip. One of the things that that I've really found to be really effective is I've quit using to-do lists. I used to make to-do lists all the time, be like, every day I would, look at my list and figure out what I want to do for that day and maybe the next day, and I had this like getting things done mentality. And so I had these lists. And so usually one section of the list would contain things that I wanted to get done like someday. Like I don't need to do it today. I don't really need to do it tomorrow, but it's something on that I really want to get done. And what I found over the course of 2018 was that someday list tended to grow and grow and grow. And I have all of these things I wanted to get done, never really got around to doing them. And so the productivity tip that I tapped into right towards the end of the year that I want to share with you right now is I quit using to-do lists and I just started working off of a calendar. And making that one shift was a huge thing. And whether you use a to-do list or a calendar or whatever, it's not so big of a thing. The real key is when you take a task that you want to get done, assign a time to actually do it. That's really what it boils down to. And what I found with to-do lists, especially that someday list, was that, it's something that I want to do. There's importance there, but there's really no urgency to get it done. It's not there's other things come up and surpass those types of things. And so I find that someday list or the not today list, whatever you want to call it, is something that just kind of grows over time, gets unwieldy, and then you end up having to like basically bankrupt it and just start afresh because it's too big and you never got all of those things done. Priorities have changed. So if you really want to get something done, here's the tip. Work off of a calendar. Put a time and a date when you're actually going to do the thing, and then I think you'll find that you have a lot more productivity and a lot more success. So there's the quick little productivity tip that I think that if you just implement that one tip, I think that you're going to find your day runs a lot more smoothly because you're going to be able to answer the question of should I do something like you get an email or whatever that comes in. Should you attend to it now? Should you not? Well, you can look at your calendar and see, should you be doing something that's more important that you really like when you put your goals together, when you put your thoughts together as to where you want to be, and then you begin to make that step-by-step path to getting there, put those steps on the calendar, assign a date and a time to when you're going to do it. And then I think you'll find that you get a lot more done. It's certainly been something that's worked for me the last quarter of 2018, and I'm definitely going to be doing that in 2019. I think it's a huge win there. So there's a quick tip. Now let's talk about how are we going to double your income, right? So like we want to get into the situation where you're winning high value clients that you love working with. And so how do we get there? What's the deal? So there's basically two types of WordPress developers. We're going to go over both types right now today. We're going to figure out which group that you're in, how you can get into the right group and out of the wrong group. Now, the interesting thing about that, oh, hey, Alan, good to see you. The interesting thing about this is one group is vastly larger than the other. Now, group one, type one. They're people that have really good skills, right? So they have the ability to build websites. They can do graphic design. They can do SEO work. They can do, sometimes there's videography and photography involved. There's lots of really good skills, branding and identity, social media management, all of these really good skills that people have. These are the kinds of people that are in type one. And, but the problem is they're having a really hard time finding these high value, long-term relationship clients. And the big difference between these two types, by the way, is one of these types, the type 1 that we're getting ready to discuss, is really setting themselves up for burnout. Whereas type 2, which we'll get to in just a second, you're setting yourself up for success, and not just yourself, but for your clients too. So the problem that that type 1 tends to have is they just have a hard time connecting with clients and finding the clients. And oftentimes they feel like they just simply don't have access to like the right clients, or to like legitimate clients, or to the clients that are really willing to invest in their business and therefore be a good client, like a high paying long-term client. And so consequently, what happens is the WordPress developers in type 1 tend to undercut their own rates, and they tend to undervalue their own work and stress out over where their next client is going to come from. And they don't really have any confidence that they're going to be able to keep the ball rolling. And so it's really, really stressful. And so one of the things that ends up happening is, they begin to put a lot of focus on things like my portfolio needs to be more powerful, or I need, a stronger source of leads, or maybe I need to set up like a sales funnel for myself, or get more into, build up my LinkedIn page. All of these busy type things tend to eat away, and you end up racking up all of these non-billable hours, and it just tends to be a bit of a mess, and it's an unsuccessful mess because you're not actually winning new clients from that either. And it's a recipe for burnout. And so even if you were able to get the clients, the reason that this is a recipe for burnout is because when you begin to feel like, okay, I'm getting better now, I'm beginning to develop skills, I have more experience, I'm able to do a better job, then even with that, you can't really raise your rates. And the only way you can make more money to get more income is to basically take on more work. And what I mean by that is, as you get better with your skills and your tools and the things that you're able to do, maybe it used to take you, 5 hours to build a really nice landing page, and now you can build it in 2.5 hours. So now you can build 2 landing pages in the same amount of time that you could build one before. And so therefore you kind of bump up your hourly rate so that you can just do twice as much work in that same hour. So what you're really doing is you're not actually really making more money, you're doing more work. And sometimes that will ultimately result in more income for you, but it burns you out because you're working twice as hard to make twice as much money. And so then the problem becomes, well, what do you do instead? So what if you actually do raise your rates? Like, what if you say, I've got more experience now, I'm better at this, I'm going to go ahead and increase my pricing. Oh, hey, Rebecca, good to see you. High five. Boop. And so then that has its own problems too. And so what I'm talking about here is that if you're in this type 1 of WordPress consulting and you find yourself burning out, these are the reasons why. And then once we recognize these reasons and kind of break out of it, then you're going to see when we get to type 2 what the real recipe for success is. And so the issue here with type 1 is like when you begin to raise your rates, and it's in a way that it's not just doing more work. And you're not saying, hey, I can build 2 landing pages in the same amount of time I could build 1, so now I'm just going to do 2 instead of 1 and to double my workload, which of course is more stress. You instead say, I'm actually going to bump up my hourly rate from $50 to $85 an hour or something like that. Well, here's the problem with that. As soon as you begin to ramp up your rates further like that, then you begin to run into the problem of having to justify the higher pricing. And so what that looks like is like if you've got like a profile on Upwork, or if you're submitting, requests for proposals or whatever, somebody just says, hey, what's your hourly rate? And then you say a big number, that's going to scare away clients, and they're going to shop around for the lower priced person. And even though you've got better skills, you've been at it for longer, one of the knee-jerk reactions that clients tend to have is they begin to sort of measure people based off of hourly rates. And so that's going to be a detriment trying to find clients in this way. Now we'll get to in a minute how this is not going to be a problem, but if you're in this type 1 group where you're trying to connect in with clients like this, raising your rates causes you have to justify the price of your higher rates. And so what that ends up looking like is you begin to say, hey, well, maybe what I should do is instead of telling people what my hourly rate is, I'll just give them a project fee. And so then you begin to shift into like project-based fees as opposed to hourly rates, which of course brings in a different category of clients. Sometimes it disqualifies you from certain projects, especially like government projects or sometimes nonprofits. But But that begins to be an issue, and it's also harder on you because what if there's scope creep? Like a lot of times if you're doing hourly rate-based work, then you're sort of protected against scope creep because as more hours get racked up, you're still good to go because you're billing on an hourly basis. But when you make that shift to project fees, that's a different sort of situation. So, and then of course, you know, how do you determine if your project is more or less valuable than somebody else's? And then you begin to compete on price again. And even then, you're still going to have this problem where you're beginning to start pricing yourself out of the market. One of the things that we talk about in the DoubleStack program a lot, like we have this whole section of the course where we talk about what is a high ticket offer. And because a lot of times when you're creating a high ticket offer, you think to yourself, well, I'll just triple my prices or I'll just double or triple my prices, whatever. And then what you end up having is a low ticket offer with a high ticket price. And when you do that, that is how you price yourself out of the market. That's how you lose clients. What you really need to do is you need to make sure that if you're going to put a high ticket price on your offer, you have to make sure the offer is in fact a high ticket offer. There's room in that offer for a high ticket price. And we have a whole system to figuring that out specifically for your market, for your clients, and the type of work that you do. So that's one of the issues with these project fees. It's like oftentimes people just, hey, you know what, I'm just going to bump the price up. It's the same project. It's the same thing. Bumping the price up, and now you're out of the market, you're losing clients. So that's thing number one. Thing number two is when you're in this type 1 group, you don't tend to be able to have the ability to leverage your skills in a way that makes you to take advantage of the experience and the years of experience. And like a lot of times I'll talk to people that have like degrees, like actual like college degrees or something in like graphic design or communications or, you know, or some sort of a tech field or whatever. But it's very difficult for them to tap into that experience in a way that means that they're making more money, that they're able to charge a higher rate because of their experience. And oftentimes people have been doing the same sort of thing for 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 years, and they're still charging what they charged in the beginning, and they're still competing on price with people who are just getting started. And tapping into that experience is and leveraging all of their skills tends to be something that they can't do, because if they were to raise their price based on this new experience, like we were just talking about, you tend to get priced out of the market. And then of course also people begin to wonder, like, is it really worth it? Like the client begins to wonder, should I act like, okay, you know, this person number 1 and person number 2, like person number 1's charging like $1,500 for a logo. Person number 2 is charging like $500 for a logo. Yeah, maybe the $1,500 logo is going to be a better, fancier, nicer logo, but is it really worth an extra $1,000 to get there? Or could I be all right with just the, you know, maybe the not quite as good logo, but it saved me $1,000? So that begins to be one of these issues. And most of the time, clients tend to fall on the side of, I'm going to take the cheaper one. It's a safer investment. That's why. It's a safer investment. If they spend $500 on it, for whatever reason, it doesn't boost their leads or whatever, they're not getting the kind of results from it. It basically makes no sort of business-oriented difference. Yeah, they're only out $500. So that tends to be the issue with just kind of trying to bump up the rates. And then the last problem is really the biggest one of all, which is you begin to become overqualified for many jobs. Like the jobs that you had when you first got started, like say you're taking overflow work from a marketing agency or a design firm or something like that, and you're wondering, okay, well, I've been doing this now for a year or 2 or whatever. I'm getting better at it. You bump up your pricing. Well, if that marketing agency can't bump up their pricing, well, now what you're doing is you're eating into the margins of the people feeding you the leads, feeding you the business. And that's going to be a problem. And so you're doing everything that you know how to do to get better. You're pumping up your skills. You're getting better at your job. You're being more skilled and more professional. So therefore you think, hey, that should mean I'm going to increase my rates. And so you do, but then you get this call back and say, hey, you know, we're not going to be able to do that. You know, we can't bump up our rates for our clients to really keep the margins the same as they were before. And so they're just going to look for cheaper labor, and you're overqualified now for the job because you're better than what's necessary for what they are looking for. So like the same kind of jobs that they originally hired you for a year or 2 ago, they still need that same level of work. Even though you're getting better and better, the level of work is staying the same. And so when you increase your price, you price yourself out of that job because you're overqualified for it now. And so That tends to be a really big problem. In fact, that's not even the worst of it. The worst one, I was actually just talking to someone right before Thanksgiving who called me up and said, hey, you know what? This very scenario happened to her. And, she was doing an awesome job. She was, crushing it, getting better skills, more skills, being more effective, being able to work faster. All of these things were happening. And she was like, thinking that maybe she was due a raise, maybe she should bump up her hourly rate. And she gets this phone call from the owner of the marketing firm, and the marketing firm person said, hey, you know what? We love working with you. You do a great job. Everything's fantastic, but we can't keep charging the same hourly rates to our clients. And, we're going to have to lower your hourly rate by like $10 an hour. And so like, how crappy is that, right? Because now, she's done everything that she could to get better and do all the work that she can. And the end result is she's making less money than she was before. And so not only can she not raise her price, she can't even keep the price the same because of this downward pressure on this service-oriented pricing. And that's really what it comes down to. It's like, getting logos, doing graphic design, building websites, all of these types of services. There's more people doing them for cheaper and cheaper prices. In fact, the do-it-yourself services are out there. There's, overseas developers, there's Upwork and Fiverr, there's all these different places. So many low-budget developers are out there that it's very difficult to compete on price if you're just selling these services. It's almost like a commodity. And so that ends up being where the biggest problem is. And so how do you break out of that scenario? Like, how do you get out of this pack where you're burning yourself out, you're doing everything you can, you're trying to raise your prices, but if you do, you price yourself out of the market, or maybe you get a call from the people that are feeding you the leads or the work, like the marketing agencies or the design firms that are giving you overflow work, whatever. And then they actually tell you, hey, even though that you've done a great job, everything we've asked you to do, you did perfectly, but we're now going to pay you less because our clients are paying us less. How do you break out of that? Because if you can't break out of that, it's going to be really difficult. You're not going to be able to double your income because you can't just take on more work like that because the rates are going down. So what do you do? Like, what's the difference between type 1 and type 2? So let's talk about the type 2 group now. So the second group of WordPress consultants, this is a much more elite group. This is a smaller group of people that have realized that this service-oriented approach to selling services or whatever, selling like design and that sort of thing, it has this downward price pressure on it. And But here's the other thing. So the people in this group, like if you were to look at the resume, like when I start working with somebody or I'm talking to somebody, consulting with someone, and we're trying to figure out how can we get your rates going? How can we tweak your marketing? How can we get you connected in with the clients that you really want to work with? Tell me what you can do. Like let me see your resume or whatever. And so if you were looking at that, a resume from someone from type 1 versus a resume from someone from type 2. The resumes look basically the same, right? They can do the same skills. They can build websites. Sometimes they've got years of experience building websites. They've got, photography, SEO, branding and identity, videography sometimes. There's all different kinds of skill sets that people have, but it's almost indistinguishable from people that can't make any money at it versus people that are selling $5,000 to $10,000 websites. What gives? How can that be? If it's the same skills, why is there this elite group that's making so much more money than everybody else? What gives? And it comes down to basically one thing. And the one thing is leadership. It's leadership. Like if you kind of, I know that there's a lot of ways that you have to go about implementing all of these changes that we'll be talking about here this year, but like if you said, hey, give me one tip. What's the one tip? The one tip is it all boils down to leadership. Because if you're able to tap into your experience and the years of experience that you might have and the degrees that you have and the efficiencies that you've developed because you've been doing this a while, and you're able to tap into all of that in a way that enables you to lead your clients to a level of success that's beyond what they could get apart from you, that's the key. That's the key. That's how you sell a $5,000 to $10,000 project, is leadership. And so let's talk a little bit about what that looks like. So what about getting clients on retainers, right? So like everybody knows that you want to get a client on a retainer. Because if you have a client on a retainer, you've got a couple of really good things happening. First, you've got recurring revenue coming in so that you kind of have that stability. You don't have the feast or famine problem. You have a regular stream of income coming in. Second, when you have retainers, every time you get a new client, you get a raise, as opposed to every time you launch a site, you lose all your money until you get a new client. And who knows how long that's going to be. That's the recipe for feast or famine. And sometimes you get too many clients and you can't handle it. And other times there's a long period where you don't have any. And so that's the famine mode. But when you have that recurring revenue coming in, then you even things out. And then you actually have the ability to scale up your business, because a new client means a new layer of recurring revenue. And so everybody kind of gets that intuitively, but most people have a really hard time getting clients onboarded into monthly retainers. And it really comes down to three things. Like, most of the people I talk to try to put three things in the retainers. They try to put like web hosting and security, WordPress maintenance, and then like prepaid hours, like a discounted hourly rate if you buy, 10 hours per month or something like that, compared to just kind of hiring you on the fly. Those three things tend to be what go into retainers. And you know what? Clients are just saying no. They're saying, no, I don't want to do that. They're saying, I'm not going to pay for security because I didn't have to pay for that on Wix, or I don't have to pay for that on Squarespace or whatever. I don't want to pay more money because of security. They're saying, I don't really need maintenance. Like, why do I have to pay for maintenance? Like, why do I have to do plugin updates in WordPress? I mean, I didn't have to do that on Wix either. So why do I have to pay for that? And what's going to happen if I don't, right? And of course, you and I know that if you don't, then, security vulnerabilities, pop up, plugin updates need to be applied, WordPress itself needs to be, updated. And if you don't do that, then eventually you're going to end up with like a site that just can't be updated because it's too long. It's too much has changed since you initially launched the site. And now there's a huge jump from the level that you are right now to the most updated version of WordPress and all the plugins. And, things are likely to break. So you really need to keep up to date with things. Those are things you and I know, but when you try to convey that to a client, they think, forget about it. If I have a problem, I'll call you. And so, very difficult. Prepaid hours is another thing that's really difficult to onboard clients into, because if you're showing up with a lack of leadership, like if you're in that type 1 group where you're saying, hey, what do you want me to do? Like, I literally talk to people all the time who are putting these prepaid hours of support into their contracts, into their retainers, and they literally send out emails from time to time because they're good people, and they'll say, hey, you've got these prepaid hours, have me do something, tell me to do something. And the problem is the clients don't know what to tell you to do. That's not in their minds to say, I really ought to be telling you to, do whatever it might be on my website. And so consequently, the hours go unused. And you can't really do rollover hours very easily in this kind of a scenario, because then you end up with the feast or famine problem in your retainer, where all of a sudden a big thing happens at your client's business. Like, it might be they hire somebody, they run a sale, they have a new product, there's some sort of an announcement, whatever, and then they're like, hey, I need you to do all this stuff. And, for the past 2 or 3 months, they haven't done squat with regard to their, prepaid hours. And so now they're thinking, oh, well, I've got 30 hours I haven't used. I need you to work, all week long just on my site. You can't do that. You have other things going on. It just doesn't work out that way. So what ends up happening is the value of the savings that the clients would get because of the discounted rate on the prepaid hours doesn't really make any difference compared to the amount of money they're wasting and not actually taking advantage of the hours in the first place. So in other words, it's cheaper for them if they just hire you when they need you. Like, when they come up with an idea and they need some help with it, they'll call you up and have you do it. And that's why people aren't buying, the security, the maintenance, and the development as part of a retainer. It's really, really hard to onboard clients into monthly retainers like that. The only possible exception to it is hosting at large. Like, if you just say, hey, I'm going to charge you $25 a month for hosting or something like that, people will generally say, yeah, well, I got to get the website on the internet, and hosting that's what that's called. So we'll do that. But if you try to get that price up to even at $100, which is a really minimal amount, to be able to do all the things that are necessary, it's, clients really tend to have a lot of resistance towards that. It's very difficult to get people onto these retainers. And the bottom line is these retainers do not enable clients to see how doing the stuff in the retainer is going to make a difference for them in their business. That's basically the bottom line. The bottom line is there's no connecting of the dots between how if I do maintenance and support and updates and security and all that stuff that I'm going to get more clients, or I'm going to get more leads, or I'm going to get more calls, or I'm going to be able to get, existing clients to come back more often and more repeat customers, whatever it might be, whatever business they're in. There's no connection between making these, like, this retainer happen versus getting those business results. That is the problem. And most web designers and WordPress developers are not showing up with that leadership to connect the dots for them. And that is the big differentiating line between this type 1 group, which is burning themselves out, working crazy hours, unable to charge the rates that they need, basically running themselves out of business while burning themselves out, versus this group that we're talking about here, this type 2 group, where they're selling, $3,000, $5,000, $7,000, $8,000, build outs and $500 to $1,000 per month retainers, maybe even more, maybe $2,000 per month, and getting this handful of clients where they have this ongoing relationship where they're scaling out their business to literally at least double. Like, most of the people that I talk to usually go from I'm not really selling anything right now to I'm consistently closing at least $3,000 projects. And so that's freaking huge, right? And this is the key. I'm telling you the key right now. This is it. It's leadership. You have to show up with leadership, with authority, with confidence, with integrity. And if you bundle all of that up, if I had to bundle all of that up into one word, the one word would be leadership. That's the thing. So why is it? So why is it that clients don't invest in these lower budget projects? And so in other words, what's another way to say it? What's the secret to winning these higher paying clients? The secret, again, is the leadership. And when you show up asking questions like, what do you want your website to look like? Who is your target market? What kind of design elements do you like? Do you have any websites that you like that, maybe we can mimic some of their features and put them into your website? Just give me some, tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it. What kind of logo do you want? Do you want to, what kind of fonts do you like? Do you like mostly a text-based logo, or are we really looking for more of an icon? And what is it going to say? All of these questions, clients don't know the answers to those questions. If they knew the answers to those questions, they wouldn't need your help. They could just get somebody to just do it on their own or whatever. And so, but the problem is when you show up asking those types of questions, these are type 1 questions. These are the questions that reveal that nobody knows what's going on. And and so oftentimes these are the discovery sessions or the strategy sessions, or, that initial meeting where you're trying to figure out, what's going on. It's almost always one of these situations where there's very little leadership going on. And that's the problem. And so let me dive into this a little bit more. Because a lot of people say, no, Lee, that's not the case. I have these fantastic meetings. And when I leave these when we kind of get out of that initial discovery phase, everybody's so excited. Everybody's happy. We feel like we've done a great job and we're really ready to just crush this. What you're saying, that doesn't really apply to me. Well, let me tell you this. Don't confuse excitement with confidence. Excitement and confidence are not the same things. People can be excited about the plan and the strategy, but still have no confidence that it's going to really work out. And so, and if you don't believe me, hop onto YouTube and watch some of these like fail compilations where you can see there's tons of people really excited about doing something, and then it ends up in disastrous and hilarious, oftentimes, failure. In fact, I'll tell you an example. My brother and I, we had a situation that should have been on Fail Army or whatever. And it was, we had this jet boat, and we were going to try to go wakeboarding behind the jet boat, but the jet boat wasn't really designed for wakeboarding. I mean, it had a little hook on the back or whatever. You could put a tow rope and kind of ski behind the boat or whatever, but it wasn't really like a ski boat or a wakeboard boat or something. And so we had this idea, hey, we really want to jump the wake. We want to be able to catch massive air. And so we decided we're going to build like this pylon, which is like this pole that kind of comes up out of the like the middle of the boat, and you can attach the tow rope to this higher point so that when you're launching yourself over the wake of the boat, that you can really catch more air, because the point where you're connected to the boat's way higher up. And so we were like, man, that's awesome, because we would watch people do this on TV, and they had these really fancy ski boats. We didn't have that, so we tried to like make one on our own. And so what we did is we went out and got this lumber. So we've got this like 6x6, like, board or whatever. And then we sort of created this wooden structure. So it's kind of like a basketball pole sort of thing in the floor of the boat with this 6x6 timber coming straight up. And then at the top of that, of the 6x6, we screwed on an eye hook, and that was like, where we would connect the tow rope. And so we had this giant, and the freaking thing weighed a ton. I mean, those 6x6s are heavy duty. That's heavy duty wood. And the thing probably was maybe 5 or 6 feet tall. And the jet boat was relatively low to the ground. And I was driving the boat. My brother, he was somewhat like of a bodybuilder guy. So he's pretty heavy guy. And he was going to try it out first. So I'm in the boat driving. He's behind the boat. We got this pylon going on. And, we're really, really excited about it. We were really excited. And it turns out that, we got him up out of the water. Everything was going great. Everything was strong and sturdy. And, he's up out of the water now. And then in order, obviously, to jump the wake, you have to kind of go outside of the wake, right? And then you cut back in really hard. And so he goes outside of the wake. And what happened was the pylon was so tall that it shifted the center of gravity or whatever we were really top heavy now. And so when he went out, he probably weighs 250 pounds or something. When he went outside of the wake, and he's like, pulling on it with all of his muscles and everything to get as far outside as he could so he could zing back in, the freaking boat starts going, it starts tipping over. And there's like, we almost killed ourselves because the boat was so top heavy that it just was not at all designed or intended for this kind of activity. And so therein was the problem. So that's a perfect example. We were totally excited. We thought this was going to be awesome. And it was a massive fail. Like, it didn't work at all. And, we're lucky we didn't get hurt. So I don't want you to confuse excitement with confidence, because when you're excited about something, you feel good about it. It looks like something you want to do, but you don't necessarily know if it's going to work. And if you don't know if it's going to work, you don't have the confidence to invest in it. And that is what the problem is with these type 1 web designers, that they show up at these client meetings, even if it's a great meeting, even if everybody's excited about how it's going, about what's going to be done, about, the outcome of the meeting is good, everybody feels good, they still don't have the confidence that it's actually going to work. And without the confidence, they're not willing to invest. And without the investment, you don't have the high ticket client. And that's where it all falls apart. Type 2, the people that are in the second group, they show up with leadership. They instill confidence, not only in what they're planning to do, but in themselves. They really shift the goal, or they shift the focus from let's build these websites to let's get business results. And you're showing up knowing how to do that. And the reason you know how to do that is because you've got experience. You're leveraging the skills. You're leveraging the experience that you have. All the things that the people in type 1, all of those folks, they're not able to tap into that, because as soon as they start raising their prices or doing whatever, we just talked about it. They price themselves out of the market in various ways. But in the second group, they're showing up and using that experience and all of the things that they have available to them in their skill set, and putting it all together in what I call business development packages. And a business results oriented approach is what we're getting to. And that is where the confidence comes in. And when people have confidence, then they're willing to invest because they feel like there's going to be a powerful return on that investment. That's the key to doubling or tripling or quadrupling or whatever, massive increases in your revenue. And it's better for you, and it's better for your clients too, because it's obviously better for you because now you're doubling, tripling, quadrupling your income. You're doing work that you love. You're not spinning your wheels on non-billable type work, hunting clients, writing proposals that get rejected, getting frustrated by not really being able to connect with clients so they see the value. All of those things just go away. You don't have to do that anymore and waste your time on that, because you've already found a handful of clients that are paying you really well to do awesome work, to generate results. And that is the key. The key is showing up with leadership, because leadership brings confidence, and confidence brings a high ticket investment. That's the bottom line there. And that's really the key to doubling your income. So if that sounds like the kind of thing that you really want to be doing this year, and you're sick of going out there and burning yourself out and taking on too much work to try to make ends meet, and feeling like even if you get better skills and more powerful capabilities and work harder and faster, and then you get the call that, hey, you know what, we got to lower your hourly rate by $10 an hour. If you don't feel like dealing with that mess, and instead you want to make this shift to actually deliver business results, and you want to show up with leadership and confidence and authority, and you want to be able to tap into the experience that you have to be able to run a better business for yourself and deliver much better results for your clients, then this is exactly the approach that you need to be taking this year. And I would love to help you work on that as well. That's exactly what we do in the DoubleStack program. If it's, we basically do that by focusing on 2 areas. It's called DoubleStack because there's 2 areas of focus. There's the tech stack, where you get business-oriented tech tools, not just how do you put a slider on the website or whatever, but I'm talking about, let me show you how to do drip campaigns and sales funnels and email marketing and, e-commerce stuff, not necessarily just like selling products, but like helping other people, get recurring revenue coming in for them, getting repeat customers, getting more leads, all of these types of things, booking more phone calls. All of these are the types of things that have business-oriented results behind them. So let's pack your toolbox with those kinds of technical tools. So that's the first stack. The second stack is the business development stack. And what that looks like is, it's really like a 5-step process. And the first step is figuring out, who do you want to be working with? What are your target markets? You don't have to pick just one, and it doesn't have to be industry specific either. It could be outcome specific, and we can talk about what that means. But the point is, you don't have to take any project that just comes across your desk. In fact, that's a recipe for not doing very well. Instead, what you want to do is you want to focus on who you want to be working with. Who can you serve the best? And I really want to put an emphasis on that word serve. It's not really selling, it's serving, because you're not giving them something they don't need. You're coming along and helping them resolve big problems in their business with what you know how to do online. So that's what I mean. So step 1 is figuring out that target marketing. Step 2 is figuring out, how do you get your ideal clients from that market? Because not everybody in the markets that you identify will be your ideal clients. And so we'll take a look at that so you can avoid toxic clients. Like people that don't show up, or that don't pay on time, or that constantly put a lot of pressure on you, but they're never accountable for anything. You can avoid those people, and knowing what to look for up front so you don't get into this bad situation is a big deal. So step 2 is, how do you get your ideal clients from your target market? Step 3 is, how do you run a high value client meeting? And what that looks like is, stop being in that type 1 group where you're asking your clients to put the plan together and you just show up and do a good job implementing the plan. That's very low value. If you want a high value business, then show up and run a high value client meeting. And the key, of course, to that is leadership. So let me teach you how to figure all of that out. How do you show up with confidence and leadership so that you run these high value meetings? And then after that, we'll work on proposal writing. Let me give you a methodology for writing proposals that win high-ticket clients. And you don't overwhelm clients with technical stuff, and instead, you actually draw them in with something that you're connecting the dots, showing them how what you're doing is going to make an impact for their business. That's the proposal thing. And then the final step, of the 5th step is, now that we've done this, let's take a look at the proposal and figure out, is this in fact a high-ticket offer, or is it a low-ticket offer with that high-ticket price? In other words, like we were talking about, like, are you pricing yourself out of the market just because you tripled your rates, or do you legitimately have a high-value offer on the table now? So we'll take a look at all of that. And what really differentiates what I'm talking about is, I'm not just sending you into an online program. What I'm offering to do is to come alongside and do these things with you. So it's an 8-week system, and you and I would be working together for 2 months on this type of stuff. Now, what I want to offer you right now, though, is if this sounds like the kind of stuff that is interesting to you, you really feel sick of being in that type 1 group where you're burning yourself out, and you want to get into this high value group of this type 2 WordPress kind of consultant group, and you want to do that now, then what I can do to help is, we can get on the phone for free for like a 45-minute consultation, and we'll talk about your business, your skills, your marketing, and all of these types of things, how you get this high-value approach into your business. And it's a totally free call. And at the end of the call, if you want my help kind of working on implementing what we talk about into your business, we can figure out if that's a good fit for both of us. And if it is, awesome. But hey, if it's not, that's totally cool too, because at least you've now gotten yourself kind of pointed in the right direction, where you've kind of got this new paradigm of how you're going to run your business in place. And you can go try and like implement that stuff on your own. We don't have to be working together afterwards. But if you do want my help implementing this stuff, then I'm definitely 100% committed to working with you on this. And, and people are getting results. Like I've got people that have never sold websites ever before to anybody who are consistently landing, $5,000, $8,000 clients right off the bat. So if that's the kind of thing that you're looking for and you really want to make this shift, at least head over to doublestack.net/call and book a call and let's talk about it and see what's going on in your business. And I guarantee you that will be one of the most powerful 45 minutes you spent, because if you feel like you're really struggling in what we talked about with this like type 1 group of WordPress consultants and you don't know how to break through to that other side to type 2, then let's at least talk about that so you can get pointed in the right direction. And again, if you don't want my help implementing the stuff we talk about, that's totally fine. This is a free call. It's not a sales call. There's no pressure. If you do want to work together, we can talk about that too. That's an option that we can pursue. But here we are. So this is the key. If you really are serious about your business and you want to double or triple or quadruple your income this year, the key is leadership. And so head over to doublestack.net/call and let's get on the phone and talk about this and just really crush it this year. I'm really, really excited about all of the potential that we've got. The WordPress ecosystem keeps growing and getting better and better. I've got some really cool news coming up probably in the next couple of weeks that I'm going to be sharing about that too. But I'm just really excited about the potential that WordPress has to really drive results for businesses. We can be doing that stuff. And if that sounds like the kind of thing that you're interested in, let's do it. Oh, it looks like a question popped up. It says, do you find that business development packages works with small mom and pop businesses who are always watching the bottom line? Meaning are the clients we're talking about higher end clients? That's a really good question. And the answer is it works great for mom and pop clients. That's really the whole point. One of the things that is a myth that we'll be talking, actually have on the list of things to talk to you about this year is people that you would traditionally think of as not having the money to invest. They actually do have the money to invest. They just don't have the confidence to make the investment. And like we were talking about before, most people put the entire burden of success on the client. Like if what gets done makes an impact, it's because the client said a good thing. The client came up with a good strategy, and then the web designer came along and implemented it well. But of course, the client doesn't have confidence in their own plan. They've never put a digital marketing package together for themselves. They don't have confidence in it. Therefore, they don't invest much in it because they don't know if it's going to work. So like this person here was saying, mom and pop businesses are fantastic. There's absolutely packages that we could be putting together to make a significant difference for local businesses, for mom and pop, for local restaurants, for people that run like Pilates businesses or personal training or life coaches or chiropractors and dentists too. Like the more higher end types of businesses, anybody that's in the business of needing customers or clients, all of you can do a ton of stuff online. Now, one of the things that I do say though is if your target market is like nonprofits or government contracts or things like that, or business to business relationships, those three categories are not really my forte, because nonprofits, it's really hard to monetize or evaluate the monetary implications of doing an online development package for someone who's not interested in making money. Second, government contracts, you can't actually follow my methodology for writing proposals because they tell you what to put in the proposal. And so you have to follow that strict outline, and they basically just, it's basically a price war at that point. So government contracts are not my forte, and business to business relationships are also not my strong suit either, because there's just not a whole lot you can do online for these. Like I was talking a couple of weeks ago to someone who grows turmeric in Hawaii, and he sells the turmeric to the mainland to sell it like Whole Foods markets. And it's like one client, Whole Foods markets. It's like a multi-year, multi-million-dollar contract, and you just don't get that kind of a relationship because somebody joined your email list or something like that. That's like face-to-face meetings. There's the life cycle of developing a relationship like that. It's very long. And that's not really the kind of thing that digital marketing, online marketing can really foster for you. But if you fall into the category of anything other than that, which would be like even somebody who like paints houses, a handyman, somebody who does landscaping, and then of course, you know, real estate brokers, lawn care folks, doctors and dentists and chiropractors, life coaches, mentors of various sorts, you know, basically anybody who's in the business of finding clients. If those are the types of people that you work with and that you really get energized working with, those are the types of folks that I can really help you with. So, again, yeah, so great question about who this is for. I'm glad that was brought up. If you want to talk about it, head over to doublestack.net/call. I know we're running a little bit long. We're almost at 45 minutes. Normally, I try to keep these to about 30. But, you know, it's the first of the year. A lot of stuff to talk about. I'm really excited about it all. So head over to doublestack.net/call. And you'll see my schedule there. Go ahead and find a time that works for you. We'll talk about this stuff. And then right after you pick your time slot, you're going to see a form. And on the form, there'll be a couple of questions. You know, so I just have a little bit of background information, like your website, like a little brief description of your business and who you tend to work with, so that when we get on the phone, I'm primed and ready to go and really able to provide as much value as I can during that time. So head over to doublestack.net/call, book a call, and I look forward to talking to you. So awesome, and we'll be back. We're going to be doing these for at least for January, just on Tuesdays. We were doing it twice a week before. We're going to be doing it once a week. I'm doing a lot of traveling and various guest appearances on podcasts and things like that. So Tuesdays at 2. That's what we're going to be doing. 2 for 2. So Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, and I'll see you guys next week. In the meantime, if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, you can put that here in the comments section. I'll keep an eye on that throughout the week. And again, head over to doublestack.net/call if you want to book a call with me, and we'll be in touch that way too. So great. Looking forward to seeing you guys next week. Take care.